UCL repair with an internal brace augmentation procedure, rehabilitation exercises. Max Wardell from the Overhead Athletic Institute here. We're going to talk about UCL repair internal brace augmentation procedure rehabilitation exercises. And we've actually done a video on this in the past for earlier rehabilitation exercises, like somebody that's just getting out of the sling and someone that's just getting out of the brace, maybe a week or so beyond that. And this video is going to focus more on the exercises we'll start to implement around week 8, week 9, week 10, right before an athlete gets into their throwing procedure, or right while they're in their throwing procedure, and some of the things that we'll do in exercise prescription to augment what they're doing in their biomechanical training and things like that at the Overhead Athletic Institute, because we're always working on a return to throw progression simultaneously with doing exercises that are going to allow the athlete to be most successful on the field. So we actually have return to throw progressions on our website. We have 30-day return to throw progressions that can be integrated into a return to throw progression from the physician. That's something you want to talk to your doctor about if you're interested in that. But we always work on the mechanical aspects of the throw simultaneously with improving percent exertion and tolerance to throwing, because you don't want to put your elbow, or really if you had any injury, you don't want to put your joint back in a position where it was initially injured to begin with. You want to put it in safer positions that are going to eventually allow you to throw harder in the end anyways. So in this video, a couple other things to keep in mind as we go through our rotator cuff exercises, forearm strengthening exercises, ballistic exercises, and then bicep tricep exercises. You don't want to provoke pain. We don't want to potentiate any nerve fibers, and we also, at the same time, we don't need to go into a range that excessively fatigues, or a rep range that excessively fatigues the musculature. We're going to go just to fatigue and then relax. You're going to have to experiment with these exercises on your own, feel what your tolerance is, and then gradually over time improve the amount of exercises and the number of sets and reps that you can perform, never going into pain. We don't need to damage any tissues or anything like that. So these exercises are going to start to load the elbow a little bit, because we got to get you back to throwing. Like I said, if you're earlier in the stages of rehabilitation, go back and check out our video where we actually did early rehab exercises that are going to be more specific to where you're at. I don't want you doing these exercises if you're too early in your therapy progression. But with that said, let's get into the first exercise. Exercise number 1 here is going to be a plyometric rebounder wall tap exercise. We actually have a little bit of a gel-filled ball here, but there's a lot of things you can use, a mini basketball, things like that. They're not going to provide as much resistance to the exercise, but they're still going to work well. We're trying to improve the number of contractions, or increase the number of contractions in a period of time. And so the bouncier the ball, a little bit the better. The less the ball bounces, the easier it'll be, as long as it's not completely flat. So with that said, we got a wall here, and we're going to bring the arm out in front, elbow bent. We're not going to actually hold the ball while we do the exercise. Get in a nice athletic stance, and the goal of the exercise is to bounce the ball as fast as possible, as many times as possible. Once you get fatigued, you take a break, and usually the fatigue anywhere from 100 reps, or even between like 15 to 30 seconds is generally when we start to get fatigued on that. And I've seen people doing the exercise way out here where they're doing this. We don't want to put the elbow or even the shoulder in a position of injury, and that's what that is. So I've seen that in rehabilitation textbooks and everything like that. That's one to definitely avoid. We don't need to apply a ballistic load in a valgus stress position. That's completely contraindicated for throwing athletes. So I'm out in front a little bit, which is essentially where I need to be when my elbow flexes anyway. I need to be around the scapular plane, in front of the frontal plane, which is straight up to the side. So I need to be out this way a little bit, so I'm not way back here doing the exercise, which is applying a pure valgus load. I'm out in front, so the load is actually into flexion a little bit. So I'm training my tricep, I'm training my rotator cuff, and I can go down, up. If you have a higher wall, you can go even a little higher, and then and that makes the exercise way more difficult when I start to incorporate some more dynamic walking. If that's something you want to see, let me know in the comment section right now. Just say bouncy ball, or just say upper extremity plyometrics, and I'll know what you mean, and I'll go make another video on a bunch of different ways that we might use this. And this is something we use just before therapy. From there, I'll go into some more loading of the tricep. So there's a few ways we can do this. I can go here with an elbow bent, and you can use any ball. Sometimes we use a baseball, sometimes we just use our hand. Here, I'm gonna catch myself with a bent elbow, plyometrically push off, catch, push, push. Or if that's too difficult, I can catch with a straight elbow and slowly lower down. So there's less than I have to do it in a elongated position of the tricep. So there's two ways you can do it. Like I said, play around with the rep ranges. Try to do it more for endurance to start, and then work more towards power and explosiveness as you get better. From there, we'll go on to the ground and perform our floor slider exercise, and then we'll actually go into some elbow strengthening stuff with the forearm and everything else that's particularly important whenever you have someone recovering from UCL repair or reconstruction for that matter. Now I'm down here on the floor. I'm going to be able to work on some of the shoulder musculature and some of the scapular musculature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a push-up position, or I can go on my knees in a push-up position if that's too difficult. More advanced guys, push-up position, push your chest away from the ground, tuck your butt under. So I'm not pushing my butt up way in the air, but I'm pushing my chest away from the ground. And from there, I'm going to do short and quicks. And I might do it for a rep range, 50 to 100, or I might do 15 to 30 seconds, something like that, and then switch sides. I want to do both sides because this arm that's sliding is getting a workout from moving, a stabilization, short range isotonic exercise. This one, I'm actually pushing my chest away from the ground, and so I'm training my serratus, but I'm actually having to resist perturbations, and now I'm doing a figure 8, so there's ways to do it, but I don't want to rotate too far. There's ways to train in different applications, mix it up, be variable, but do both sides so you get a stabilization effect through the scapular muscles on one side as well as on the other side, getting a training effect from actually doing the isotonic exercise. All right, so here we're going to go into some rotator cuff strengthening. If you've been following us for a while, you've seen some of our rotator cuff exercises. These are some good ones to apply if you're down here on the table. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to improve my rotator cuff strength in positions where I'm going to need it in the throw. So I'm actually a right-handed thrower, but I'm going to do this stuff left-handed for the purpose of the video here. And so I'm going to come into external rotation, not letting deviation of my elbow either way. So my arm comes here. From there, I come down, I can straighten my arm, come up, reach, all the way down, back up to here, bend the elbow. And this is a fairly advanced exercise, and that's the point you're at. So if that's too hard to follow that step progression, I'll go through one more repetition. So there's one rep. If that's too difficult to follow, then break it up into two exercises. You go here, and you come all the way down, reach. Shoulder down, I'm reaching as far as I possibly can. Reach, as far as I possibly can. And now I'm training the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, to decelerate across my body. I'm not letting my shoulder shrug up towards my ear, and I'm reaching out that way like I'm reaching the shoulder out of the socket as far as I can. We have a bunch of exercises on our website, overheadathletics.com, that have different rotator cuff exercises similar to this one. The other way I can do it is I can turn my thumb down. That makes the exercise more difficult, and that's a more advanced variety rather than straight this way. If I turn my thumb under, much more difficult exercise. The rotator cuff exercise for the other part of the rotator cuff is here and there, and I can grab here if I want to stabilize. As far as I can possibly go this way, and I only got a 3-pounder. and my rotator cuff's pretty strong, and this is very difficult. So 2 to 3 pounds is all you really need here. If you're looking for more on rotator cuff exercise, we've got a bunch of videos on that, so I didn't want to spend a ton of time here, but those are 2 more advanced ways that we would train the rotator cuff. So I'm training this exercise and then this exercise, or I'm combining the 2. Just to save time, but also increase time under tension and things like that. So that's that. Let's go into forearm and bicep training. All right, so now we're on to some forearm strengthening exercise. I actually have a baseball here and a band, TheraBand. You can wrap it around something that'll hold it here. And then I got the baseball, and I'm gonna actually roll the baseball in the band. So now I'm actually holding a baseball, and I can come out and see now, I wouldn't want to apply this stress if I was early in rehab, but I can start to apply that now, which is that valgus load, which is similar to what I have in throwing. And I can do the exercise here. Now it's not a ton of valgus, but it's just a little bit. I can do isotonic exercise, or hold it and do an isometric and do some step outs, which is going to be a little bit more specific to what my forearm musculature does during the throw. And I can turn it this way and hold against supination into pronation. So the thing is trying to pull me that way and I'm resisting. And then I can do the same thing up here. I got to be careful to not apply too much load. So you could start with a yellow TheraBand, move to red, then to green, doing the same exercise up here, something we've shown in some of our other forearm videos. Now, biceps training, I can do the same thing with a step out here for my bicep, or I can go into a lunge stance and actually, let me get away from here, actually do some bicep curls. I like to do a lot of isometric stuff for the bicep. You know, just making sure your band is securely attached to something and trying to train that bicep there isometrically, and then doing some bicep curls up where it's going to contract. I'm not going to do it way behind my body here. I'm out in front a little bit and I'm doing the exercise. Now we've gone through some bicep training exercises, forearm exercises with a ball or without. I could do the same exercises, just holding the band. And then we've gone through some furniture slider, floor slider things. You can use a floor slider like that. You can use a paper plate on the carpet. Anything that kind of slides. We did some rotator cuff stuff. If you don't have a 3-pound or 2-pound dumbbell, grab a can of soup. It's roughly around 2 pounds. And then we also, you know, we've gone through some different tricep and plyometric style exercises and some different ways you can do it, whether you had baseball, whether you didn't have anything, or whether you had a small basketball or a gel-filled ball, which would be something we use in therapy. So bunch of different exercises for you guys to use. Like I said, pain-free ranges of motion and pain-free rep ranges, and then gradually applying more resistance, more intensity as you get stronger. Start with endurance, find the rep ranges that work good for you and the number of sets that work good for you, and don't overdo it initially. And then as you get into your throwing progression, you're gonna have to start working on the things that are gonna protect your UCL and protect the repair that was actually done, protect the surgical procedure. And so what you're gonna need to do is get your elbow in more stable positions and teach your body how to move more efficiently through the throw. And that's something we've already put together for you guys on our website, overheadathletics.com. We have return to throw progressions as well as throwing progressions for healthy athletes. And those are things that you can use to try to improve your throwing mechanics while you increase the percent exertion, increase the number of throws, and get back to the field so you don't put your shoulder or your elbow in positions that are going to cause injury or that contributed to your injury to begin with, and get you ready in terms of the number of throws, the percent exertion, the distance at which you're throwing, and ready to play. And we've also included a bunch of exercise stuff for you guys in there as well. So check that out at overheadathletics.com if you haven't yet. Subscribe to the channel and we'll see you in the next video.